And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to the second annual Free Enterprise and Democracy Network online conference. And we're glad to have you present with us today. I'm Andrew Wilson, the Executive Director of the Center for International Private Enterprise, or CIPE as we call it. CIPE has a distinctive mission of strengthening democracy wherever it intersects with private enterprise and economic development. And it possesses a portfolio of more than 200 current projects and grants in over 80 countries around the world. We build relationships in each country with independent voices of the private sector and champions of reform who include leaders of business associations, chambers of commerce, think tanks, entrepreneurship organizations, and other civil society organizations. Through them, we support locally rooted solutions, advancing democracy that delivers. The Free Enterprise and Democracy Network, or FEDN, was established by CIPE with the idea that accomplished individuals from emerging markets are best positioned to make the case for liberal democratic free market systems and inspire collective action by others. FEDN members are an invaluable resource in framing priorities for democratic development, advising on policy and programmatic challenges, and leading reform initiatives both separately and in partnership. And I'd like to extend a special welcome to the FEDN members with us today who will be sharing their experiences. You know, when I spoke of democracy that delivers, I alluded to the interrelationship between democracy and free enterprise, or more specifically, market economies governed by rule of law and fueled by entrepreneurial initiative. Democracy has delivered better lives for a couple of billion citizens living on fortunate paths of the planet. But how democracy will continue to deliver is an open question. The global battle for ideas has shifted. Since the 1990s, the dominance of the market is not in doubt. Rather, today's questions are what will be the rules of the market and who gets to make those rules. Thus, as we explore private sector solutions, we'll be re-examining the nature of corporate citizenship. To do that, this year, CIPE established a new Center for Accountable Investment to grapple with these questions, and you'll hear from the center's director, Eric Hans, in the opening fireside chat tomorrow. But our keynote speaker today will set the scene for our discussions, because the essence of what we seek from this conference is to surface private sector and policy solutions that respond to threats against democratic resilience, while promoting better communication and collaboration among FEDN members and our participants from various constituencies in support of our shared values. To make the most of these 2 days, I encourage you to reach out to a FEDN member or another guest via the event's platform's networking page. Explore the exhibits in the showcase, also on the networking page. And if you're competitive, try to challenge to score points. Our workshops this morning provide one good opportunity to contribute your solutions to the discussion. You'll be contributing to foundational work for future FEDN initiatives. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our opening keynote speaker, Damon Wilson, the President and CEO of the National Endowment for Democracy, and only the second person to hold this position in the organization's 40-year history. Damon's background makes him ideally suited as a champion for democracy. Prior to coming to the NED, he was the Executive Vice President of the Atlantic Council, Washington's foremost think tank on Euro-Atlantic issues. He has served on the National Security Council, where he headed up the Office on Central, Eastern, and Northern European Affairs. Damon has had an action-packed career, serving as Chief of Staff at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, working at NATO during its expansion, and serving on the China desk and embassy in Beijing at the U.S. Department of State. He's now heading up a dramatic transformation at the NED, where he is managing a period of organizational transformation at one of the most critical periods of recent history. Within the first weeks after his arrival at NED, Damon oversaw the evacuation of hundreds of NED partners from Afghanistan, and more recently has been working to support NED's partners in Ukraine as they participate in their struggle for democracy. It's now my pleasure to hand the floor over to you, Damon, to hear your words.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for that warm introduction. And thank you for your leadership of CIPE, your partnership within the NED family. I'm really delighted to be here with you today to welcome all the members of the Free Enterprise and Democracy Network, along with partners and friends of CIPE, our distinguished guests, and friends of freedom. As Andrew said, I joined NED a little over a year ago, as I believe our struggle to support democracy and freedom around the world in the face of an unprecedented authoritarian assault is the defining challenge of our time. Your work is consequential. It is the cause of our time. And the outcome of our efforts, your efforts, and those of our partners around the world will help determine the future of human dignity, liberty, and individual initiative. You all know that we're entering the 17th year of the democratic recession, but it's much more than that. We're facing headwinds and hostility in all parts of the world today. And it's been a sharper, more complex set of challenges in the last decade. First, democratic erosion, populist bouts, and backsliding in many established democracies. Sharper authoritarian repression at home, producing unprecedented numbers of democratic diasporas, along with the export of the tools, the tactics, and the technologies of repression, namely from Russia and China, bolstering autocrats around the world. All of this is compounded by a new information environment that incentivizes polarization and is plagued by efforts to sow division in free societies and undermine trust in democratic institutions. It's compounded by the networks of kleptocracy, which so many of you know well, and it's complicated by the tsunami of technology that offers much hope, but also huge challenges as we grapple with issues such as AI-enabled surveillance. Democracies must contend with new authoritarian technologies of influence, populist distrust in institutions, shrinking civic space, and economic pressures pushing countries to the financial brink. Yes, as NED board member Ann Applebaum has put it, the bad guys are winning. And yet, in our work, when you see the courage, you see the determination, the resilience of our partners, you can't help but be optimistic. Like Madeleine Albright, the late Madeleine Albright, I believe in the coming democratic revival. The demand for democracy is strong, and we are at a tipping point in the struggle for freedom. And it's our job to help our partners lead what will become known one day as the fourth democratic wave. So at NED, we are committed to a strategy of democratic renewal, which ensures that we are at a low point and will soon help our partners turn the tide. But this requires us to raise our game, to innovate, to learn faster, and to out-hustle the autocrats. The courage of the Ukrainian people, it's an inspiration to those worldwide who are joined in the struggle against authoritarian regimes for the preservation of democratic values. Expressions of citizens' independent will are continuing to pop up around the world. They're irrepressible. Iran looks to be the latest example this week, while cracks are appearing in the narrative of effective authoritarian performance. Those who care about our open market economies have witnessed the erosion of the global rules-based trading system, the rise of state actors pursuing non-market-based competition, and growing barriers to inclusive economic opportunity. And these challenges become more existential when power is arbitrary. Members of the FEDN FEDN network, you yourselves express that business too often is complacent, blind to the dangers ahead until it becomes another target of government. Look at what has happened to technology and education companies in China. So in short, we have been on the defensive too long, and it's time that we go on offense. We can both defend democracy and advance freedom. And as the FEDN members put it, we must bring substance to the lofty goals of advancing democracy, combining citizen action with policy change and international support. So where do we begin? A good place to begin is by remembering our strengths. The late Mike Samuels, who we honored at our board meeting recently and died last month, was the first executive director of CIPE. Ambassador Samuels framed the CIPE approach to private sector development and democracy assistance. In 1983, he wrote, "Pluralist democracy assures that business people will retain the political freedom that guarantees economic freedom. In turn, economic freedom supports continued political freedom and stability. What better way to confront our most dangerous adversaries than through our own democratic pluralist institutions?" Indeed, the design of the National Endowment for Democracy was founded on the complementary strengths of distinctive elements of a free society. Among these elements of society, the role of the private sector is in many eyes the most enigmatic in its relationship to democracy, but I see it as central. Free enterprise can be the beating heart of a free people, their engine of ingenuity. Entrepreneurship can spread power throughout a people. So if the private sector is understood as composed of entrepreneurial citizens with independent aspirations who have a stake in an open, well-governed society, then the talent, resources, and constituencies of the private sector become a crucial factor in democratization. Thus, the private sector has a necessary role as part of the solution, whether through its operations, its partnerships and community, or voice in the policy arena. Moreover, open market economies based on individual liberty, rule of law, and equality of opportunity must be part of the equation to foster pluralistic, strong societies and accountable government. So in response to today's challenges, FEDN has identified 3 broad areas of need for concerted action, areas in which individual members are already engaged. And the first area is collective action. And I often say it, Ned, that we need to be working in common cause. This refers to empowering and partnering with local actors who can then work together and push from the grassroots for bottom-up change, strengthening social capital, fostering coalitions, and economically empowering marginalized groups relate to this goal. Collective action also refers to building bridges across sectors. The private sector and civil society must find ways to work together instead of allowing rulers to play one constituency against another. FEDN founding member Aurelia Conchessa worked tirelessly to engage the private sector in strengthening Venezuela's democracy and was a leader in several business associations and civil society organizations, helping these organizations build consensus on how to improve the environment for free enterprise and democracy within the country. Alegria Bing Limyoco, past president of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, is famous for creating inclusive opportunities for women in franchising, and recently has supported community partnerships with local chambers to improve workforce skills and health outcomes. The second area is preparing for change, fostering democratic and market transitions, and averting democratic backsliding. The windows of opportunity concept is well established, centered on the efficacy of institutional reforms when crony elites are disorganized and popular demand for change is high. The window of change concept may also be useful in framing key institutions to be defended when checks on authority are weakened. Take the work of members Nishan Demel and Jesus Estancao. Nishan Demel has been actively advising on how to solve Sri Lanka's financial mismanagement and the crisis, while explaining the democratic origins of legitimacy in a situation where the law no longer serves the people. Dr. Estancao was a key figure in the Philippines' 1980s democratic transition and continues as a beacon for a bottom-up approach to governance and transformation. His many projects include the Dream Philippines initiative to reform public sector entities, as well as governance scorecards for publicly listed corporations. The third area is countering corruption and upholding the rule of law. This includes measures to build up institutions of accountability, reform regulatory systems designed to serve inside players, and close governance gaps that permit the inflow of corrosive capital from abroad. The business community must show leadership in areas of self-regulation, compliance, and integrity. Ned Democracy Award recipient Cynthia Gabriel is a leader in this field. She advocates for human rights and good governance in Malaysia and was appointed to the 1MDB Special Committee and also was appointed to the Council to develop a national anti-corruption plan. Finally, FEDN member Tayfun Zayman founded the Ethics and Reputation Society of Turkey, an NGO oriented in business ethics, integrity, and compliance, now with influence in Turkey and Europe, and it trains large companies on integrity and integrity risk management. Knowing the areas for action and having leaders in these fields is yet not enough. We need innovative and locally appropriate solutions. Plus, we need private sector organizations, entrepreneurs, and professionals to engage around these solutions. So this conference today and tomorrow will explore the range of promising solutions as a step in the movement from ideals to action. Others are coming at these challenges from different angles. FEDN is an affiliate of the World Movement for Democracy, whose 11th assembly will meet in Taipei, Taiwan this October. And the outcomes of your event will feed into deliberations there about opportunities for collaboration and show that a wide swath of the business community and advocates of economic freedom will contribute to the advance of democratic societies. Democracy gives people the choice to determine their own future, their own destiny. And our work is to bring this promise to life. Our challenge is to demonstrate to the next generation that democracy offers more sustainable, more inclusive, and more legitimate solutions than do authoritarian and illiberal approaches. Every day, your efforts help show that democracy delivers. I want to thank you for your work. I want to thank you for your dedication to the cause. And I want to ask you to push yourself, push your organizations, your team members to raise their game, to innovate, to help go on offense. The future of freedom is depending on it. Many thanks, and I wish you all the best in your deliberations. Thank you so much for having me with you today, Andrew.
Thank you, Damon. That was an inspiring speech and really laid out the myriad of challenges facing us as a democracy community. But, I'm really confident that with your leadership and combined with the strengths of networks like FEDN, like the World Movement, we will see that fourth wave of democracy move to fruition in the coming years. But the struggle is ahead of us, and it's going to be a lot of work. And I can give you our commitment on behalf of CIPE and FEDN that we will be strong participants in that struggle with you. I would like to invite you all now for at 9 a.m., which is our plenary session kickoff. Threats to democratic resilience. I think what we'll hear are some of the themes that Damon brought out in his keynote address. We will be back on this channel at 9 a.m. So thank you very much again to Damon Wilson for a stirring keynote speech, and we look forward to joining you at the 9 a.m. plenary. Thanks, folks.